Governor, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Good to be here.
Good to see you.
Good to be back.
So, the state of the recall race, how do you see it right now? How do you see this race?
Well, we turn out our vote, we're going to win overwhelmingly. We just have to remind people of the imperative to vote no on the question that is in front of them. And I say in front of them because this is an all mail-in ballot. It's very different. It's an off-year, off-month. It happens on September 14th, but at the end of the day, the election day is every single day between now and September 14th. It's all about turnout.
And we have seen, though, the Republicans seem really fired up, Democrats not as much.
Yeah.
What is this strategy? What does the next few weeks look like?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there's so many networks 24/7 promoting this recall, have for months, and people to see, and Democrats in many respects, we see a big blue state. We see sort of dominance in terms of the party's representation in seats across state. So we just are assuming things are safe, but you can't assume anything. And so we're trying to remind people of what's at stake, compare and contrast what's on the other side, and the consequences, and remind folks of the obvious, that it's polls don't vote, people vote, meaning the notion of registered voters feeling pretty confident that we'll win versus likely voters, mostly Republicans, that will ultimately determine this. We have to turn that paradigm around.
And you say that Larry Elder is the clear favorite on the other side.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of people that have asked me, how much can a governor really do in a year with a Democratic supermajority? What's the answer to that?
I mean, you can lie down and veto everything coming out of the legislature. You can veto everything that comes from the legislature.
But there's a veto-proof majority, right?
Well, there is and there isn't. A lot of things are stubborn. There's a lot of diversity even within the Democratic caucus. At the end of the day, you could start to vandalize all the executive orders. You can eliminate the masking requirement for public schools. You can eliminate the vaccine requirements for public health care workers. So many of the things that I signed through executive order can be done overnight. You can appoint judges without any oversight and consideration. That's going to have an impact for years and years and years. If there's a vacancy, and you've seen many vacancies, Secretary of State, U.S. Senator, you've seen an Attorney General, you appoint County Board of Supervisors. I appoint half dozen. You are able to appoint people that will permanently have that opportunity to represent. So it is a profound consequence. And also you have the bully pulpit of the fifth largest economy in the world. And you have a midterm election coming up with another Californian who wants to take out Nancy Pelosi. Consequences are pretty extraordinary.
So in terms of sort of where we go from here, the LA Times has this op-ed that says that it would be a disaster if you were recalled. But they also said it would be cowardly not to vote on question number 2. They make the point that there's a big difference between Larry Elder and Kevin Faulconer.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
You
don't think there's a difference between Larry Elder and Kevin Faulconer?
I don't know. You have to ask them. I mean, they seem to align on the masking. They seem to align on the vaccine verification. They align in terms of their support of Donald Trump. So I don't honestly know. I mean, look at where they are on the critical issue of this Delta variant and keeping people healthy and keeping people safe as it relates to this virus. They are both promoting exact same position, walking off a COVID cliff and following the Ron DeSantis and the Texas model. So I would suggest they're much more similar than they appear.
But is there something, though, of giving up your vote, giving up your say in that, and then a real small minority of voters, you're essentially letting the Republicans pick the next governor of California?
No, look, this thing, up or down, we could reject. You don't have to worry about the second question. I mean, the clarity of this is pretty simple. You vote no, we don't have to even worry about the second question. Just vote no. And then next year, we can have at it and we can go back and forth with 40, 50, 60, 70 candidates in a traditional election. But they want to shortchange that. All these folks that put their name on this ballot know they're going to have a hard time winning next year when it's done traditionally and appropriately. So they have to take advantage of the perversion of our recall laws that are among the easiest in the country to get on.
This isn't just Republicans that supported this recall. There are Democrats that signed it as well, overwhelmingly Republicans, but there are Democrats, there are independents that are frustrated by what's happened in this state, that are considering voting for this recall right now. Do you understand why they're frustrated, and what's your message to them?
Last year and a half, we've all been frustrated. The whole tremendous fear, anxiety, all of us have been faced with across the country. There's not a state, and no one in positions of influence or leadership is not struggling with everybody's anxieties. And you have to be empathetic in that respect. But also you have to be sort of mindful that there's a reason the RNC is behind this, and Newt Gingrich is behind this, and folks like Devin Nunes are behind this. There's a reason the RNC wrote a check to help get this on the ballot, and there's a reason that it was initiated. And I think this is incredibly important. Read the petition. Yeah. Read the list of grievances. And it starts with sort of a condemnation of immigration and our diversity. And I just hope folks pause and really reflect on what this is really about. At the same time, look, I deeply understand the difficulty and challenges we've been through as a state, but boy, we are turning the state around, outperforming across the spectrum, across the economic and health spectrum compared to other states, and the best is yet to come.
Well, and let's just paint a real clear picture of that. So the next year, because that's all this is going to be, basically, what does that look like with you? What's the agenda for the next year with you as compared to with one of the others?
So we just put together a comprehensive, detailed strategy, first in state's history, to deal with the issue that's probably the most frustrating and vexing issue of our times, and that's homelessness. A $12 billion plan, $3 billion for new mental health housing for conservatorships, and to place people that are severely mentally ill, get them off the streets, an encampment strategy to address all these encampments. We haven't been shy. A $3.75 billion commitment on affordable housing, a housing agenda likes of which we've never had, cleaning up our streets. We're transforming our public education system, and we are combating climate change, leading the nation in terms of our low carbon strategies. So I think a lot is at stake. All of that gets set back, quite literally in many cases reversed, if we don't turn out and vote no on the recall.
And so your day job, because before you haven't campaigned for this, now you're starting to campaign. You're doing this in the middle of a pandemic and in the middle of some of the worst wildfires in the history of the state. How do you balance the two going forward?
It's just life's an and, not an or. Tyranny of or, genius of and. My point is, you do this, you show up in Greenville and address the issues of the Dixie Fire. You pre-position assets knowing that we've got a heat dome over the next few weeks. You address the issues day in and day out of trying to implement so many of the proposals that we just got passed by the legislature in terms of the homeless efforts, in terms of our housing agenda. At the same time, raising resources, money, awareness, and focusing on the task at hand, which is 30 days out now.
Bottom line message to folks now that are concerned about all of this?
Well, it's a zero-sum game. I mean, you can have someone in office, you can wake up and you can dream of regretting in profound and consequential ways. And we felt all across the country, not just here in California. And it's part and parcel of a narrative we've seen in this country where people deny election outcomes. They try to disrupt those in positions by getting in recalls, great mechanism in which they could be disruptive. And people continue down a path of denialism about science, and facts, and evidence. Yeah. And that's on this ballot. I mean, all of that. Climate science is on the ballot. Public health and public safety is on the ballot. Our public education in this state and keeping our kids safely back in school, that's on the ballot. All of them want to eliminate the mask wearing requirement and vaccine verifications. It's very consequential.
Do you think there are any legitimate grievances that people have, and are there any lessons maybe you've learned from the last year, maybe things that didn't go so well that you want to do differently now going forward?
The state of California outperformed Texas and Florida, Indiana, and the United States in terms of health outcomes and economic outcomes. California has actually led. We're the first with the stay-at-home order, first with these new requirements as it relates to vaccine verification. We continue to lean in. We're doing substantially better than other parts of the country right now, including one of the top vaccine rates in the country. Look, in hindsight, all of us, there was no playbook for any governor, not one in this country. Every single person in position of leadership, business leaders, parents, all of us, I imagine, could go back and say, how would I have approached things if we knew now, or then rather, what we know now? And so it's always difficult to assess that, but humility, always, no one's ideological here. And I recognize what everyone recognized, all those pre-existing conditions. Don't think for a second. I've been here just 2.5 years. We just got, with the last year and a half, kind of got a little sidetracked in terms of the fundamental agenda of addressing affordability and dealing with homelessness and what's happening on the streets. And also addressing some of the crime issues in the state, which I'm committed to and resolved to do. And we have strategies, and we are not walking away from responsibility in that space either.
And we saw you fired up in one of the recent interviews that got a lot of attention. I know this last year has been so incredibly taxing for you personally, every single day, the pressure of the pandemic and everything. Stressful for everybody, all around the state, but especially for you with the pressure of all this. Is it frustrating, though, after doing all of that work every day, to then have to face this?
I mean, nothing is enjoyable about facing this recall, but I don't know there's anything I could have done to avoid it at the end of the day. Again, this predates the damn pandemic. These guys were coming. This is the sixth effort. And we're just at a moment in American history with the easiest recall ballot to get on in America, where it just takes a few $1 million and a little intentionality to get it done. So look, yeah, I got 4 kids. I mean, the stress I have is replicated by millions of other families with kids, and that's the hardest part. And they're young; they're all of them under the age of 11. The youngest just turned 5, and dealing with family and the responsibilities, and dealing with pandemic. I have small businesses myself. That's how I got into politics as a small business owner. All of this across the spectrum, and at the end of the day, no one cares about. I know what people think about. I'm not naive. Yeah. We love to hate politicians. Yeah. We're just things. So look, no one has to worry about my feelings. My job is to worry about your feelings and 40 million Californians. And you know what? I care about all 40 million. I care about the people that signed the petition. I care about Republicans, not just Democrats. I care about people living in rural California. I care about people that go to church. I care about people that believe in their right to bear arms. I believe that people have the ability to live together across their differences. I love this state. I love what it represents. I love our values. And I'm going to fight like hell to protect them. And that's why I want people to vote no on this recall.
Governor Gavin Newsom, thank you for the time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Always great to see you.
Thank you so much.